Kayla. I am a wife, a mother, and a sewing and embroidery enthusiast. I am so happy that you guys joined me for this event today. I have some really fun sewing patterns that we're going to go over today. These are perfect beginner sewing patterns. They were so easy to make. I had such a blast making them, and I can't wait to go along with you guys step by step through all of them. The first one that we're going to make today is this adorable bowl cozy, perfect for soup season coming up. They are so fun. I love all the different fabric options that you can do. They are so cute. They make great gifts. Super fun. This was the easiest project today and the fastest project. The next project that we're going to do today is we are going to make these adorable baby joggers. Now, the size that I made today is a 5T, but the pattern goes from 3 months all the way to 5T, so you can make whatever size you want for whatever toddler you want. Toddler or baby, doesn't matter. There is a size for it. So these joggers were super, super fun. And then our last project that we're going to do today is this really cute sewing mat. Now this sewing mat comes with pockets and a thread catcher. I'm going to show you on the computer the instructions for each of these before we begin so that you can see just how easy these patterns are. They give you full color pictures in the instructions. Every single line gives you a picture and shows you exactly what you're supposed to do for the next step, and it is so easy and straightforward. You guys are going to love it. So all of these patterns will be linked down below, and embroiderydesigns.com also gave me a coupon code for you guys today. Now using the code KAYLA, K-A-Y-L-A, you get 50% off select sewing patterns, and you get select sewing patterns buy two get one free. So great deals. Make sure you check it out. I will also add that coupon code throughout the video just so we don't forget, and I'm pretty sure it'll be linked down below too. So make sure you use code Kayla to get those discounts. Okay, here we are on the Bowl Cozy listing of embroiderydesigns.com, and I just wanted to show you real quick how amazing these listings are and how detailed it is, and showing you what exactly you get with your purchase. Now this Bowl Cozy sewing pattern, obviously you can make an unlimited supply just from one pattern. You can make so many different designs with different fabrics. Now this is a digital PDF pattern. You're not going to get anything in the mail, so it is just a digital PDF pattern. One thing that I love about the instructions is that they come in full color pictures. So let me show you right here. So here is the actual pattern. So this one is just a 2-page pattern. And then when you go to print this, we're going to go to File, Print. Now, you want to make sure you print all of your designs at 100%. So mine, for some reason, automatically went to 107% right here. We're going to go to Scale and type in 100. And then this is going to give us our test square at the correct size. So we're going to do this for all 3 of our patterns today. So go ahead and make sure whenever you print that it is scale 100%. And then we're going to go ahead and click Print. And so when we look at the actual instructions, you guys, they are not kidding when they say it comes in full color pictures. So it shows you exactly what it's going to look like from beginning to end. So the first page of the instructions shows you all of the supplies that you're going to need, all of the fabric and batting that you're going to need, and how much to cut out, 10 by 10. It tells you what your seam allowance is going to be. Then it shows you exactly how to cut out your pattern once you have it printed. And then it shows you step by step with color pictures how to put together this bowl cozy. And these instructions are so easy to follow, you guys. Snowbird did a great job with these instructions, and they are so easy and straightforward, and it shows you exactly what it's going to look like at the end. So that is one thing that I love about this. Now let's go ahead and look at the other patterns that we're going to go over today. Our second project today is baby joggers. So we're just going to simply type in baby joggers, and I will show you exactly which ones we're going to make today. It's these ones right here, the Grow With Me joggers. Now, one thing that I love about this pattern specifically is it gives you such an array of sizes that you can create. I love all the pictures that comes with it. So it shows you exactly what they're going to look like. Now, this pattern comes in 3-month to 5T sizes. And if you don't have a serger, a sewing machine with a zigzag stitch will work, which is what we are going to do today, as you will see later on. This again is a digital PDF pattern with step-by-step instructions with color pictures. And it just, you guys, all of these instructions are so straightforward. I love it so much. They are so easy to follow. Perfect for beginner sewers. So here we are looking at the Grow With Me jogger instructions. It tells you right here exactly what you're going to need: half yard and knit fabric, sewing machine or serger, scissors, thread clips, and of course your pattern pieces. It tells you exactly the sizes that each each size is going to make: your waist, hip, and your inseam. So, and I also like that they say if you're between sizes, they suggest sizing down on the waistband. So little things like that make it so easy for beginner sewers to go along. Here we have more color photos in our instructions that help so much than just a black and white photo. We can actually see what is the right side of the fabric and what is the wrong side of the fabric. These are so easy to follow, you guys. And here we are with the pattern. Now I'm going to show you this in a little bit also, how we put this together, how we line up these black triangles right here, and then how we cut out each piece. So this, again, like I said, you're going to print it and you're going to make sure it is at scale 100% so that your 1-inch test square is correct. Okay, our last and final project that we're going to create together today is this sewing table mat. And you guys, it comes with a thread catcher and it is so adorable. I'm really excited about the fabrics that I chose today. So it comes with this little thread catcher / trash can. You can really use that for whatever you want. But this again is a digital PDF sewing pattern. Now it tells you exactly what the measurements of this table mat and thread catcher is going to be. And these again come with step-by-step color photos. So here are just some more images of the ones that the creator made. So I like in this photo, hopefully you guys can see that they put their sewing clips in there instead of their thread. So that is really nice. It's just like an extra little storage pocket. I like this one, how they kept a notebook in there, scissors. And the nice thing about this is it is your sewing mat, so you can really customize your pockets and put in them whatever you want. So here are the instructions. Beautiful, beautiful color photographs. And again, here it tells you all of the supplies that you're going to need, how many pieces and what size of the fabric and the lining and the pocket that you're going to need. And then it shows you how to print your pattern and how to cut it. And then again, just beautiful, beautiful colored pictures showing you exactly what to do, taking you step by step through the whole thing. And it just could not be any easier. I really appreciate the color photos for things like this. Once we get to the corners using our bias tape towards the very end, these colored pictures really helped me see exactly what I needed to do, exactly how I needed to fold it, exactly how I needed to clip it. So I just absolutely loved this. It is absolutely perfect for beginner sewers. I absolutely do not consider myself an advanced sewer, but things like this are just really helpful no matter what stage you're at in your sewing career. And here is another final completed look, and it is just such a fun project, and I'm so excited to take you guys along with it. So those are all of the patterns that we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and start our first one. Okay, so our first project today is going to be the Bull Cozy pattern. So here's what you will need for this project. You're going to need your fabric. Now it tells you that you're going to need 10 by 10 inch pieces of fabric. Now you could either do both sides, the inside and the outside of the cozy, the same fabric, or you could do like what I'm doing and have an outside main fabric and an inside lining fabric. And so I have these really fun Christmas patterns. I have these red and green polka dots, and then I have these really cute peppermint swirls. I think this is going to make a great Bull Cozy for winter. You're going to need 2 pieces of the same 10 by 10 inch batting, 1 for each piece of fabric. You're going to need pins or clips. I'm going to be using these little clips today. Fabric scissors, of course. You're going to need some sort of ruler. I'm going to be using this gridded acrylic ruler today. And then you're going to need, of course, your pattern, which I have printed out right here. And then I will show you guys up close testing the 1-inch test square to make sure we printed it correctly. You're going to need, and then of course for this project and all the other projects, you're going to need a sewing machine. The first thing we're going to do is cut out our pattern. So piece number 2 right here, you can see has a solid line right here. So we're going to cut across that. Now make sure you're using your paper scissors and not fabric scissors. Do not cut paper with your fabric scissors. And now I'm going to take piece number 2 and I'm going to line it up on piece number 1 and then tape it together. So lining up the lines on the X, there's also a very light gray half circle right here. So each piece has a quarter circle. So you're going to line those up and make sure that it makes a half circle. And then make sure your line up top is even. And I like to just put something in place while I get my tape ready, just so I don't lose where I have it. And then we're just going to tape it together. And now we can move that and then finish taping it together. Taking our paper scissors again, we're going to cut on the dotted line of the pattern. Okay, and then testing our 1-inch square, we're going to take a tape measure and just lay it on and make sure our square is exactly 1 inch, just like how we pressed. And if you want to use the centimeters, then you can use the outside square and make sure that it is also 4 centimeters, just like it says. So this printed perfect, exactly 100% how we wanted it. Now we're going to take each piece of fabric and lay it on top of our batting, and then we are going to either pin or clip those in place. Okay, now taking our ruler, we're going to go from corner to corner and draw a diagonal line. Now it really doesn't matter what kind of pen you use. I'm just using a black felt tip pen. You can use an air soluble pen if you prefer. You can use a chalk pen. It really is up to you. Since it's on the batting and it's really thick, you're not going to be able to see it. So I'm not worried about this showing up. So we're going to draw a diagonal line just like that on both pieces. Now we're going to go over to our sewing machine and we're going to sew down both of these lines on both sheets, making our X. And I'm just going to use a regular straight stitch. Now on things like these, feel free to go as fast or as slow as you need to. Being able to sew in a straight line is honestly a skill that gets perfected over time. It's not something that you're going to get right away if you're a complete newbie. Sewing straight is actually a lot harder than it sounds, so feel free to go as slow or as fast as you want. Okay, now we are going to bring right sides together, bring the corners together, and we're going to do this on both pieces. And on each corner right here, we are going to make a mark and cut. So this is when you're going to need your ruler again. So we are going to mark 1 inch on this side, and we are going to mark 2 inches down on the fold, and then we are going to use our ruler to line up the markings like this and draw a line. So it's going to look just like that. And we're going to do the same thing for this side. We are going to go 1 inch over on the raw edge. And 2 inches down on the fold. Connect them. And then we're going to sew on this line right here. We're going to do this for both of them. So now we have sewn on those little paths that we drew. So I'm actually going to grab my rotary cutter for this part. What we're going to do is we're going to cut 1/4 inch above the line that we just sewed. And cut, just like that. Mark it and cut. Now same thing for this one. We're going to mark 1/4 inch above it, cut, 1/4 inch, and cut. And so now we're going to do the same thing but the opposite way. So we're going to fold right sides together going the other way. And if you need to pin it or clip it in place, that's fine. And I'm actually, now that I'm here, just going to use my gridded mat as my guide, I'm just going to line my edge up with the line, mark 1 inch over, 2 inches down. So I'm going to do the same thing for both pieces, and then same thing, we're going to sew that line and cut a 1/4 inch right above it. So now you can start to see our bowls are really starting to take shape. Now what we're going to do, we're going to flip one of them inside out, and we are going to put them right sides together like this. So the batting is facing outside on both of them. They are right sides together. And now we're just going to clip them in place all the way around. So make sure you have your seams and everything lined up together. Okay, now we have it clipped together, and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, we are going to sew all the way around, but we are going to leave about a 2 inch opening so that we can flip our bowl right side out. And then, oh, believe it or not, first project is almost done. As soon as we flip it right side out, we're just going to straighten it out and top stitch, and then we're all done. So let's go ahead and sew all the way around. Now, once I get to the corner, I'm going to leave my needle down. I'm going to lift up my presser foot, and I'm just going to turn the bowl a full 90 degrees. So I'm going to do that when I get to every corner. And now I'm going to back stitch, and now we have our 2 inch opening. But before we turn it right side out, what we're going to do is we're going to round out our corners, because when we flip this out, with how bulky these corners are, we're not going to get a nice rounded corner on our finished bowl. So I'm going to take our fabric scissors, and I'm not anywhere near the stitches, but I'm basically just going to round it out. And it's not going to be a straight corner, it's just going to be a rounded corner. Now, obviously, make sure you are being very careful to not cut your stitches that you just sewed. So there we have it. Now all of the corners are nicely rounded out. So now I'm going to find my opening again. There it is. And I'm going to just very slowly and carefully work this to where it is right side out. Just try to straighten it out as much as you can with just your fingers. Pull your corners out as best you can. And you can see it's really starting to take shape. Like that. It's super cute. So now, using something with a blunt edge like a chopstick or a closed pen or something, I'm going to be using this paintbrush right here. We're going to take the end of it and we're going to push out our corners. So we're just going to put it through our opening right here, and we're just going to gently straighten out our corners. Super, super cute, you guys. So now our bowl is almost done. We simply just have to straighten it out and close up our opening. Now, you could either do this by doing like a ladder stitch with just a needle and thread, or we can sew it closed, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to go to my opening, and I'm going to fold over the ends and bring them together. Using our clips, we're going to hold it in place. If you notice, I didn't do one on this side because this is where I'm going to start sewing. Okay, so using an 1/8 inch seam allowance, we're going to sew it closed. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to do a few stitches and then back stitch and go all the way around the bowl cozy, 1/8 inch. Now, since this is the final top stitch, you can do the thread in whatever color you like. Whatever colors are in your fabric, you could, like this one, there's so many different options. I could do pink, blue, dark blue, green, red. I could do yellow for like a pop of something different, but I'm just going to keep white on my machine. But think about how you want your final piece to look and use coordinating threads. Feel free to have fun with it. I went and got a bowl out of my kitchen to show you guys just how cute it is. It fits around the bowl perfectly. It's great for soup season coming up. I love that I could turn it inside out if I wanted to, if I wanted the peppermints on the outside. I absolutely love it. I think it's adorable, and I can't wait to see what you guys make and what fabric choices you guys do. Like I said before, you could either do the same fabric on the inside and the outside, mix it up, play with it. I think it would even be cute if you, before you sewed it together, did like some sort of embroidery in the middle, do like a monogram or a fill stitch embroidery design. You can customize this however you want. It is adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up from this project. And while I do that, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the crochet patterns on embroiderydesigns.com. Here we are on the homepage of embroiderydesigns.com, and we're just going to go ahead and go up here to the search bar, and we're simply going to type in crochet patterns. And you guys, these crochet items are so stinking cute. I might have to add crochet to my crafting repertoire because these are just too adorable. They all come with a PDF pattern, and the thing that I love most about these listings is that most of them come in bundles, like this one. This one comes with several different things that you can create in just one purchase. So this one comes with 6 mini toys, and it says you can create it in just a few hours. Like I said, they all come with a digital crochet pattern, and they are just too adorable. I love the different colors, the different designs. These would make absolutely adorable baby shower gifts, just like these rattles and pacifier clips. So if you know how to crochet or are just now learning, make sure you head on over to embroiderydesigns.com and check it out. Project, we are going to be making everyone's favorite baby joggers. I love sewing baby joggers. They are so easy to make, and just with all the different knit fabrics that there are, you can make so many different outfits, so many different styles, and they are just absolutely adorable. I have this adorable avocado fabric that we're going to be doing our joggers in today. So you're going to need at least a half yard of knit fabric. You're going to need, of course, your pattern that we've printed out. You're going to need either fabric scissors or a rotary cutter. You're going to need either pins or clips, whichever one you prefer working with. And you're also going to need either a sewing machine with a zigzag stitch or a serger. So let's go ahead and make these baby joggers. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to move my fabric and stuff out of the way. The very first page of the pattern that prints shows you how all of the different pieces line up. So this is just a scaled down image of what your pieces are going to look like. So you can see we have, page 1 and then page 2 and then page 3. So we're going to line up all of these pages. Okay, and one important thing to note about this is it shows you which way the number patterns go. So piece number 1 goes here, piece number 2 goes this way. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it goes across this way. So it's really important to know which way your pattern pieces go. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to follow this exact picture template that they give us. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut along the line of the pattern so that I can line up my black triangles on the pattern. So now that I cut off the edge right here, I'm going to line up these black triangles in the middle. Just going to do them edge to edge. And then once I feel like those are lined up, I'm going to make sure the top line is lined up and that the bottom line is lined up. And using some Scotch tape, we're going to tape it together. Now I lost my place there a little bit, so I'm just going to get it back. And what you can do is you can place, something on top of your paper so that it doesn't move while you get your tape. Whatever you need to do to make sure your pattern is correct. And then tape. Now I personally, like I said in the last project, like to tape both sides. So that's what we're going to do. So there's pieces 1 and 2. And now I'm going to do number 3. Okay, now you can see our pattern is all taped together, so now we just need to figure out what size we're going to make and cut that size out. It has lines on it that shows you, okay, if you want a 3-month to 12-month, you cut it out here. If you want 12-month to 3T, you cut it on this middle one, and 3T to 5T, you cut it on the outside one. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the 3T to 5T size. That is a size that my son is right now, so I can do this project and then, give him the pair of joggers that we make. So, not using my fabric scissors, using my paper scissors, I'm going to cut along the very outside line for my desired size. Okay, so there's one piece. Okay, and there's the next piece. So now we're going to cut out the cuffs and the waistband. Okay, so there's all of our pattern pieces. So I'm going to get rid of all of these scraps over here. And get reorganized. Okay, so now we have our 4 pattern pieces ready to cut our fabric. A very important thing to note on your pattern is where it says place on fold, and it says it right here on the pattern, and this means that we are going to fold our fabric before we cut. You're not just going to cut out a piece that looks like this. You need to fold your fabric so that you have 2 pieces that will mirror and open, and that will be the front. So we are going to open our fabric, and I'm going to re-fold it over. I'm not going to fold it from the middle because that just wastes fabric. So I'm going to fold it over just a little bit on the side to give me just enough to place my pattern piece on the folded edge right here. And I will bring you in closer in just a second once I get it lined up. So as you can see, this is where the fold is. And right here where it says place on fold is where we have it lined up right on the edge. And so now we're going to cut it out right there, all along the edge. Now if you have a steady hand, you can use a rotary cutter for this. Or what I like to do, just so that our pattern doesn't move, is I like to pin my pattern piece in place. So we're just going to add a couple pins just so it doesn't move. Make sure your piece is flat so that you get accurate measurements. And I'm just going to use my fabric scissors today. And we're just going to go slow and cut it out together. Make sure we cut it correctly. I'm cutting just outside the paper. I'm not cutting the paper, I'm cutting just outside the paper. Okay, so now we can take our piece off and see the front part of our joggers. Take that off, and so now we have the front of our joggers. So now I'm going to do that for, let me move this out of the way so I don't cut it twice. And then now we are going to cut the back side of the joggers, the waistband of the joggers, and we're going to cut 2 cuffs, and it tells you right here on the pattern, cut 2, so that's really nice. So, I'm going to go ahead and cut those. I'm going to set this to the side. You can see it has a nice little cutout of, there's a nice little hole cut out of what we just cut out. So I'm actually going to cut this off, just so that this piece is one big piece, and I think we might have enough down here to do the waistband. Let's see, maybe even the cuff pieces with these smaller scraps. So let's see. So we have this little rectangle now. So I have, let's see, these are the cuffs, and the waistband needs to be cut on a fold. So I don't know that we're going to have enough room with this piece, but we might have enough to cut the 2 cuffs. So I'm going to fold it and see if I have enough, and I do not. I'm about 3/4 of an inch shy. So that's okay. See, this is part of sewing, is seeing what you can use your scraps for. And sometimes you can use them, sometimes you can't. But if I keep this folded in half, I do have enough to cut out my 2 cuffs. So I'm going to leave this square on here. Now this does not need to be placed on a fold or anything. We're just going to cut out a straight square. So I'm going to pin it in place just like I did my last one. And then we're just going to cut around it. So there we have it. So now I can take off the pins. The nice thing about knit fabric is when you pin your pattern in place, you can't see the holes. The holes go right back up. It's not like, you know, poking leather or anything. So now we have our 2 cuff pieces. So I'm going to set these on the side with the front piece. So now I'm folding the fabric back over so that we can cut our back piece. Okay, so now this one we are also going to place on the fold. So I'm going to line it up on the folded edge and then pin it in place. Okay, and so now we're going to cut this out as well. And our back piece. And now we just have the waistband. Okay, so I'm going to fold the fabric Perfect. I'm going to place it on the fold, pin it in place. Okay, so this is how much I have left out of the 1 yard of fabric that I bought. So obviously we cut the biggest size, we cut the 5T, so if you were doing like 3-month joggers or newborn or, some of those smaller sizes, you could probably get 2 or 3 pairs out of 1 yard of fabric. So as it sits, I bought 1 yard and I am able to get 1 pair of 3 to 5T out of it. So keep my scraps over there so they don't get mixed up. Okay, so here we have all of our pieces. We have our waistband right here. We have our back piece. We have our 2 cuff pieces. And then we have our front. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to piece together our front piece and our back piece. So we are going to line them up right sides together, which means print side facing together. Okay, so lining up our sides. Once you have it right where you want it, we are going to use our clips and clip it together. You could use pins if you prefer. And now for this side. Okay, and now that we have the outside pinned, clipped, we're going to do the inseam. Okay, so now we are going to sew our edges together. Like I said earlier, you could use either a serger or a sewing machine with a zigzag stitch, which is what we're going to do today. So I have it set to my zigzag stitch over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take off the first pin over here, and we are just going to line it up under our needle plate. And we're just going to sew a zigzag stitch all along the edge of the outside and on the inseam. Okay, so now we have the inseam and the outside seam of our joggers sewn together. So you can see that is all done. So now what we are going to do is we are going to take our waistband piece and our 2 cuff pieces and serge or sew them together too. So we are going to fold them together right sides together and either pin or clip in place. Okay, and so now we are going to do either the serge or the zigzag stitch along this edge. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces sewn, we are going to bring them all together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our cuff piece and we are going to fold it to where the right sides are together. So we're basically just going to take one end and fold it in on itself and line up your edges. And try to make sure the seam on this side matches the seam in the back. Try to line those up. Takes a little bit of finagling, but just work with it until you get it lined up. And again, make sure your seams are even on both sides. So just like that. And then we're going to do the same thing for the waistband. Okay, so now first thing that we're going to sew on is the cuff pieces. So before we do that, we need to fold this inside out. You can cut any loose threads that you find. Okay, so we're going to fold this inside out, or actually right side out. Oh my goodness, these are going to be so stinking cute. And what we're going to do, so you have your raw edge right here and you have your folded edge. So what you're going to do is you are going to basically tuck the pant leg inside. You're going to do the folded edge on top. And you're going to line up the bottom edge of the pant leg with the raw edge of the cuff. Okay, so it looks like this. And obviously this is upside down. So here's the raw edge of your pant leg and your cuff. And the folded edge of your cuff is up your pant leg. So it's like that. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to do the zigzag stitch or the serge all the way around. Make sure you have the correct layers where they're supposed to be so that you're not sewing your leg closed. So make sure you have 3 layers on each side and you're going to zigzag stitch or serge all the way around. Now the only clips that I'm going to place are where the seam is and on the outside edge. Because when you sew the cuffs together, you have to pull it a little bit and give it a stretch while you sew so that it sews correctly and so that you don't have an overlapping of your fabric. So you kind of have to pull it as you sew it. So I'm just putting a clip on the two ends because as it feeds through, I'm going to be pulling on it so that it stretches and gets all of the fabric. Now, because this is such a tight, small cuff and you have to pull it, you are going to have to frequently stop and readjust and make sure you're sewing straight and sewing accurately. Okay, so there we have it, one cuff done with the zigzag stitch. Okay, so once we fold it over, that is what the cuff looks like, and I think it turned out great. Our seams are lined up and super, super cute. Same thing with the waistband. We are going to put the waist inside of it and line up the seam with the seam. Okay, now when you do the waistband, you're going to notice that the inside part of the pants is a lot bigger and you have a lot more excess fabric than you do the cuff because the cuff is smaller. That is so that it sits tighter on the waist. It wouldn't make sense if they were the same size. So as you can see here, I have 4 pins. I have 2 on each side. This one over here is lined up with the seam, and then I have one on the other side, and then I have 2 that are perfectly in the middle. And so now, as you can see, as we sew, we need to stretch and pull the fabric as we sew so that we can get a nice good stretch with our stitch, and that will create the nice waistband. So make sure as you are sewing that as you pull it together, you have all 3 layers completely flat under your sewing machine, and that you are if you need to, constantly adjust and make sure you have all 3 pieces completely flat underneath your needle plate. Okay guys, so here are the completed joggers. They turned out so cute. As you can see, the cuff, you could either, let me fold it over for you. You can fold it over if your child's not quite that same size, and you can roll up the cuffs around the ankles too. Or you could have it all the way out. There's a nice little stretch on the waistband there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this second pattern. I love these baby joggers. They are so fun to make. There are so many different knit pattern fabrics out there. These avocados are adorable, and they're just so fun and easy to make. So I really hope that you guys had fun with this. Here is that discount code again, you guys. Use code KAYLA, K-A-Y-L-A, to get 50% off select sewing patterns, or buy 2, get 1 free on select sewing patterns. That is KAYLA, K-A-Y-L-A, on embroiderydesigns.com. I'm going to clean up from this project and we will get into our third project. But while I am getting cleaned up, I am going to talk to you guys about 2 new vendors to embroiderydesigns.com. And those 2 vendors are Molko Studio and Rasa Patterns. So we're going to go ahead and talk about them real quick while I get cleaned up for our last and final project together. Molko Studios has some of the best patterns for bags out there. All of these patterns are so fun and stylish and have simple PDF patterns to follow. So if you're looking to make a zippered pouch, cute purse, or drawstring bag, make sure you check out Molko Studios. Then, when you've picked out what bag you want to make, head on over to Rasa Patterns for an array of beanie and cap designs. Winter's coming, and Rasa Patterns is sure to have a hat design that fits your unique style. Both Molko Studios and Rasa Patterns can be found on embroiderydesigns.com. Okay, and now for our last project together, we are doing the sewing mat. I am so excited to sew this one together with you guys. I picked out some really fun fabrics. So what you need for this project, you need basically your standard sewing supplies. You need either fabric scissors or a rotary cutter. You need your tape measure. You need either pins or clips. It calls for a 1-inch button, and I have these really cute flower buttons. You need 3 yards of 1/2-inch bias tape. You need 1-inch webbing, and then of course your fabrics. So it tells you what size you need for which piece, for the mat and the separate thread catcher that's on it. So for the mat, I am going to be using this really cute bee fabric, and then it tells you the measurements to cut. So for the mat, you needed 2 pieces of 24 by 21 inch fabric. You need the same size 24 by 21 inch batting, and what's really nice is I'm just using the same batting that I used in the Bowl Cozy project, so that's really nice. You need a for the pocket for the sewing mat. Now you could either use the same fabric or a different coordinating one. I'm going to go ahead and use just this basic gray. I think it coordinates really well with the bees. And this was also the same size, the 24 by 21. And then you need fabric for your thread catcher. Now to go along with the bee theme, I have this really cute honeycomb fabric, and I thought this would be really cute for the basket on top of the bees. Now for the thread catcher, you will need some iron-on interfacing, so I have this right here that we're going to iron on here pretty soon. And then of course your pattern that we printed. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and assemble our pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of this stuff out of the way and just put it to the side. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and lay out all of my pieces before I cut and tape them. And then of course make sure you do your 1-inch test square to make sure you printed it correctly. So there are all 9 pieces. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pieces and then tape them together. Okay, so now our pattern is all taped together. So now we're going to go ahead and cut out all of our pieces that we need. So here's the piece for the pocket. This is the piece for the mat, and then this is the piece for the thread catcher. Now the first thing we're going to put together is the thread catcher. So you're going to need your fabric for the thread catcher, your webbing, and your iron-on fusible interfacing. Okay, so I have cut my piece of interfacing just a tad smaller than my piece of fabric. I'm going to use this Teflon sheet just to keep my iron protected, and I'm just going to iron this interfacing onto the back. Now it has instructions. You basically just have your iron to the hottest setting and hold it in place for 15 seconds and move it all across your fabric, and it will iron it on. And also if you have a heat press, you could do it that way too. That would be much easier to get it done just in one shot. Okay, and there you can see I have it ironed on the back. Okay, so now we have our interfacing on one of our fabrics for the thread catcher, and then we have just what would be our lining fabric with no interfacing on it. So now what we're going to do is we are going to fold it in half, right sides together, to where the short ends meet. And then what we're going to do is we are going to sew a 3/8 inch seam down the sides right here. On this one, we're going to leave a 2-inch opening in between our stitches. This one we're going to sew all the way on both sides. So once you go ahead and line up your sides, you could use pins or clips to hold it in place. Okay, so using our 3/8 inch seam allowance, we're going to go ahead and sew these up. Okay, so the main fabric piece is done. Now we're going to do the lining piece. Okay, so I stopped a few inches in, and now I'm going to give my 2-inch space and then start again. Okay, so now go ahead and cut your extra long threads if you have them. So now is when we're actually going to use the piece from our pattern. If you have not cut out these squares in the corners, then go ahead and do so now. So now we're going to go ahead and place this pattern piece on top of our main lining fabric. Now we have our pattern piece clipped to the main fabric that has the interfacing on it. Now the fold of the fabric is at the very bottom right here, and we're going to cut out these squares that match our pattern. And we're doing this on the folded edge because this is going to be the bottom pocket of our basket. So you could use scissors or a rotary cutter. I am preferring to use scissors just because it's just a simple square. And there's 2, so now it looks like that. And so I'm going to do this for the lining fabric also. Okay, so the next part in the instructions, we are going to put an X on this corner. Now I'm just using a real light brown marker. You could use a pencil or air soluble pen, whatever you have. So I'm going to put an X on each of these corners. And what we're going to do, we're going to be doing this on both, by the way, so I might as well just do this now. You see my X's here? We are going to open this, if I can get it, open this, and we are going to connect our 2 X's like this. There's one on that side and one on that side. And now we are going to sew this corner together, and that's going to give us one of the bottom corners of our pocket. And if you need to, you can pin this in place. If you feel like it's going to move, you can pin it in place and then just start on the one side. Okay, and there we have the first corner of our pouch. So now same thing on this side. Let me see if I can straighten this out and show you. So same thing on this side. We have our two X's. There's one right here and one right here. We're going to open it. Going to open it. So now I have an X right here and an X right here on the seam, and we're going to bring it together and then sew straight across. Okay, so now our lining fabric is done. So now I'm going to do the same thing with this piece with our interfacing. I'm going to take my two X's, open it up, and bring them together. So now we're going to take our lining piece and our 1-inch webbing, and we are going to clip or pin, whichever you prefer, the webbing all the way around the top of the outside, so the wrong side of the lining part. Okay, so now I got to the end, and I'm going to overlap where I started by a 1/2 inch. Now using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to sew this all the way around. Okay, so now that is sewn all the way around. So now you can see that and so this is still the wrong side of the bag, so you can see that is sewn all the way around. Now we're gonna make our loop for it to be able to hang onto the button on our mat. So we're gonna now we're gonna go ahead and take our bias tape, and I just have black bias tape. You could use whatever color you want. And we are going to cut it 5 inches. So I'm just gonna use my mat right here to cut 5 inches. Now I'm going to fold it in half and then clip it together. So now that I have it folded together, I'm going to sew a straight stitch down each side. Okay, so now we're going to take our loop, fold it in half, and then we're going to pin the ends together, just like that. And then put this to the side because we will use it in just a second. Okay, so now we're going to get this bag and we're going to divide the opening of it into quarters. So I can put my fingers in half like that, and I know that this side is a seam and this side is a seam. So there's half. So I'm going to put a pin to mark it, half and half. And now I'm going to mark it this way, line the clips up, so now I know what is halfway this way. And that's going to give me my quarters. So now you can see I have 4 clips evenly spaced a 1/4 way of the bag apart. So now it doesn't matter which one, but you're going to pin the loop that you made to the inside, the right side part of your bag. Now, I personally want my bag to hang with the seams on the sides, so I'm going to place my loop with one of the middle parts so that when it hangs, you know, the seams are going to be on the sides, not front and back. So ultimately you can put it wherever you want, but I'm going to choose to put it to where the seams are on the side. And you're going to pin it or clip it to the inside part of your bag, to where the right side part of the fabric is. And now we're going to sew this in place. Just gonna real quick go over that loop. Okay, and now our loop is sewn in place. Okay, so I'm still leaving these pins in place, or these clips in place, and we're going to turn our lining fabric right side out. And go ahead and straighten it out. Nice little pocket we've got there. And now we're going to grab our main fabric, and this one is still inside out. And what we're going to do is we're going to place the lining fabric on the inside of the main fabric. Try to line up your pocket corners as best you can. Might take a little bit of finagling, but we'll get there. And then you're going to take these clips and hold your main fabric in place. Now, once you get to the loop, make sure the loop is on the inside, not hanging out of the outside. You want it to be on the inside so that when you flip this inside out, your loop is out and you can hang your bag. So just pay close attention to little things like that. And we are almost there. There we go. So now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way around this. So now we are going to turn this right side out using that 2-inch opening that we left in the lining. You can go ahead and cut all these long threads too. So now we got to find our hole in the opening, and we're going to flip this inside out. Once you get it all the way through, just go ahead and straighten out your bag. Oh my gosh, you guys, this looks so stinking cute. And you can see our loop made it through. Now, since that hole that we brought everything through is on the inside, it's up to you. You could either hand sew it closed with like a blanket ladder stitch, or you can sew it closed. I'm going to sew it closed, just one, to save time, but two, because it's on the inside of the bag, so it doesn't really bother me, but it's up to you on what you want to do. So I'm just going to sew this closed real quick. And there we have it. Cut the long threads. And now you can see it is sewn closed. So now I'm just going to straighten the bag back out. And there we have it. Our little thread catcher bag is done. And now we can go ahead and move on to the mat. Okay, so for this next part, what you're going to need is you're going to need one of your mat pieces and the piece that you have for your pocket. Now, your pocket piece, this is optional, can either get interfacing or not get interfacing. I'm going to go ahead and pass on the interfacing this time and just do a real basic pocket. Obviously, depending on what you want to put in your pocket, the interfacing might be better. It would keep it stronger. If you wanted to put all of your scissors and cutters and everything like that in there, it might be a better idea to put the interfacing in your mat just to make your pocket that much stronger. So it's completely up to you. So what we're going to do with our pocket piece is we're going to fold it in half lengthwise, or hot dog style, whichever you prefer, and make sure it is even. And then we are going to lay it on top of this mat piece, and I'm going to lay it to where the fold is up, so that way once we make our pockets, it already naturally has an edge to it. So we're going to go ahead and line it up with the bottom of this piece of fabric here. And then we're going to go ahead and clip it in place. And now we are going to sew this side seam right here and sew this to the fabric so that it is all one piece. Okay, so now comes a really fun part of adding the pockets. Now, this part is completely customizable. You know your sewing room, you know what you need, you know what you use the most, you know what would be best to have most accessible to you on your sewing table. So these pockets can be as big or as small as you want. You can have either just one big pocket and leave it like this. You could just do one stitch down the middle and have two pockets. You could make 3 pockets. You could do a few small ones over here and then one big one. This part is completely up to you, which is one thing that I absolutely love about this pattern. So just me thinking about the things that I use the most, it would be my rotary cutter, it would be fabric scissors, and then it would be embroidery scissors, but these are probably a little small to have in there, but it would be, you know, things like my measuring tape and an air-soluble pen and things like that. So just thinking about the things that I can keep compartmentalized is going to help me figure out how I want to do my pockets. So just kind of eyeballing where I want them, I'm going to place a pin where I want to do a straight stitch and make my pocket. So I'm going to do one right here. And now that I like that placement, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the middle of that clip to the end, and it looks like it is 4 3/4. So now I'm going to go from the middle of this clip and do another 4 3/4 pocket so that I have 2 of the same pocket right here. So I'm going to hold this in place while I add another clip right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and do one more of that same size. So 4 3/4, hold it in place, add a clip. And I think I'm going to add one more. And I think that's actually going to give me pretty even pockets all the way across. So that actually is pretty even on all the pockets. I didn't even plan on doing that, but that is actually pretty good. So like I said, just think about what you use the most, what you would like to have accessible at your table, and go from there. You know, don't be afraid to mix it up and have, you know, however many little pockets you need. It's your sewing mat, so you do what works for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a clip directly above where I have, and that's just going to help me sew my straight line and create my pockets. This isn't holding anything in place. I'm just using it as a guide. You can use a pin, you can use an air-soluble marker, a water-soluble marker, whatever you have Whatever you want to use, that's fine. I'm just using this because I can just very easily do my straight line just like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my fabric to my machine, and so this is my first clip that I have in place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it directly behind my presser foot, release the clip, and then bring my presser foot back to the beginning of the fabric, and now I'm going to sew my straight line. So there is one pocket done. Now we are going to do the same thing for pocket number 2. We'll pull this through, line up the clip with the back of our presser foot, move the clip, and then line it up with the top of the pocket, stitch, and then back stitch, and then go all the way. Okay, so now here's what it looks like with all of our pockets finished. Now feel free to have fun with your thread color also. I actually considered doing like a bright yellow since this is a bee theme, but I just kept it white to keep it simple. But now we have 5 pockets on the front of our sewing mat. Okay, so putting this to the side for a moment. Now we're going to grab our batting and our other main piece of fabric for the mat, and we are going to sew them together. So go ahead and line them up and then pin or clip them together. And again, this is just using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so there we go. We have the batting sewn to the one side, and now we are going to add this side. And basically, same exact thing. We're going to pin it in place and then sew all the way around. Okay, so now both sides of our mat are on, and we are almost done, you guys. It is looking great. And now we basically just have to do the outside edge with our bias tape. I'm just gonna go ahead and clean up some of these long threads that I've got going on here. They seem to always find their way back, even when I think that I got rid of most of them. Okay, so now it's time to add our bias tape. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our bias tape, and we are going to clip the raw edge along the edge of our mat. So we're just going to start clipping. Okay, so now that we have it pinned in place, what we're going to do is we're going to sew until we get to a 1/2 inch from the corner. And then once we get to the corner, we're going to pivot and we're going to sew 45 degrees off into the corner. Okay, so we're going to sew it in place. Okay, now getting to a 1/2 inch from the corner, I'm going to go slow so that I don't miss my mark. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up my presser foot, I'm going to pivot, and then I'm going to sew to the corner off of the mat. Okay. So as you can see there, I went straight and then I pivoted and then I went up a 45-degree angle to the corner. So now what we're going to do, we're going to fold our bias tape up at the same 45-degree angle. And then we're going to pin it in place, folding it back down like this. Turn this around to show you guys. So you take your bias tape, you fold it up at the same 45-degree angle. So now this is the top side of your bias tape, not the raw side. And then you're going to hold it in place and fold this down so that it's now following the edge of the other side, like that. And then we're going to pin it in place. And this is going to give us that really nice folded over look once we're ready to top stitch and go to the other side. So now we're going to line up this same raw edge with this side of the mat. Okay, so now that we have this whole side clipped, we are going to do a straight stitch all the way, and then once we get to this bottom corner, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stop a 1/2 inch before, and then 45-degree stitch angle into the corner, and then we're going to fold this over and then continue on doing that for all of the corners of the rest of our mat. So now I'm on the very last side, and what I'm going to do is wherever I started, I'm going to cut off 2 inches past that. So you could either measure it or eyeball it like I am. And so I am going to sew the rest of this, and then I will bring you in closer to show you how we're going to finish this off. Okay, so now that we have this extra piece, we are all the way to the end. What I'm going to do is this little flap from where I started and this piece that we cut extra, we're going to sew together right here at the very bottom, and then they're going to lay flat real nicely. So I'm not sewing the mat, I'm sewing the 2 pieces of bias tape together. So now we're going to fold our bias tape over and pin it in place. And then once we have it pinned all the way around, we are going to top stitch one last time, and then we are all done. Now here is a glimpse of the completed mat. Our pockets turned out great. I went ahead and just hand sewed this button on, and I think the pink flower pops and looks so cute. I love the honeycomb fabric on top of the bees. Now you could even, if you wanted smaller pockets, take this in half yet again and have even smaller pockets down there. You could do another layer in front of this and sew the same lines on and have 2 layers of pockets if you need extra storage. This is so customizable. You can see I went and did the clips in here, so that's basically just an extra storage pocket, but I think it turned out so cute. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I had an absolute blast sewing all of these projects with you guys. I do not consider myself a professional sewer by any means, but no matter where you're at in your process, these beginner sewing patterns were so easy. Even if you're just getting started, they are so easy to follow, so straightforward. The color pictures in the instructions are so helpful, and I really hope that you guys found them helpful too. If you want to check out more, make sure you use my discount code Kayla, K-A-Y-L-A, for 50% off select sewing patterns, or buy 2 get 1 free select sewing patterns. And again, I just thank you so much for your time, taking time out of your day to hang out with me. So make sure you check out everything that's going to be linked down below for each of the projects, and I can't wait to see you guys again.